Welcome everyone, I'm Dale, and this is Cinema Historia. An interior decorator, a womanizing bachelor, and a telephone party line. This week we're going back to 1959 for a romantic comedy called Pillow Talk, starring Rock Hudson, Doris Day, Tony Randall, and Thelma Ritter. And this is directed by Michael Gordon. So where does our story begin this week? Well, our story begins in New York City in the late 1950s. Jan Morrow, played by Doris Day, is a successful, self-reliant interior decorator who lives alone and claims to be happy, stated frequently when asked on the subject by her drunken housekeeper Elma, played by Thelma Ritter. The only irritation in her life is the phone party line that she shares with Brad Allen, played by Rock Hudson. Brad Allen is a talented, creative Broadway composer and continuous womanizer who lives in a nearby apartment building. Jan and Brad, who have only ever met on the telephone, have developed a feud over the use of the party line. Brad is consistently singing to one woman after another what he calls an original love song, only changing the name to suit the girl, and Jan needs the phone line for her interior design work. Brad suggests that the single Jan is jealous of his popularity with women and needs to find a man of her own. A feuding Jan goes to the phone company to obtain a private line, but with an overwhelming demand for new lines is turned down but offered a representative to investigate. Next, Brad charms the female telephone inspector who is sent to investigate Jan's complaint. So a feuding Brad and Jan agree to share the phone line on alternate half hours. Meanwhile, one of Jan's clients, millionaire Jonathan Forbes, played by Tony Randall, asks Jan once more to marry him, but not wanting to be his fourth wife, sensibly refuses. Unknown to Jan, Jonathan is also Brad's old college buddy and his current Broadway benefactor. Jonathan makes Brad aware of his beautiful latest love interest, and Brad comes to realize this must be his feuding partner. One evening in a nightclub, Brad sees Jan dancing, learns who she is, and being attracted to her, fakes a Texan accent and invents a new persona, Rex Stetson, a wealthy Texan rancher. Unaware of his real identity, Jan begins being wooed by Rex, with Brad using his new identity to get the upper hand on their rivaling feud. So, does Jonathan discover there's now more competition for Jan's affections? Does Jan fall for the wrong man? Or does discovering a case of mistaken identity change the direction of our story? Produced by Arwen Productions, the company owned by Doris Day's husband, upon its release, Pillow Talk brought in then a staggering domestic box office gross of $18,750,000 and is considered as the biggest hit of 1959. The pairing of Doris Day and Rock Hudson was so successful that they earned Allied's Male and Female Star of the Year for 1959 and spawned two more romantic comedies, also with Tony Randall, Lover Come Back in 1961 and Send Me No Flowers in 1964. With a 94% rating from the film critic Rotten Tomatoes, this film received 11 nominations and 7 wins, including 1960 Golden Laurel Awards for Top Female Comedy Performance for Doris Day, Top Male Comedy Performance for Rock Hudson, and Best Supporting Act for Tony Randall. Amazing. And our trivia question this week. If you've seen this movie before, you may get this one. What unique automobile proved to be a tight fit for someone in our film? What unique automobile proved to be a tight fit for someone in our film? So a little more history and the answer to our trivia question coming up next. Well, since the story in our film centers around a party line, that's the subject of this week's history. So a party line or multi-party line is a local loop telephone circuit that is shared by multiple telephone service subscribers. Party line systems were widely used to provide telephone service, starting with the first commercial switchboards in 1878. Other than subscribers in the most rural areas, telephone companies did offer an option to upgrade to individual line service at an additional monthly charge. Party lines provided no privacy in communication. They were frequently used as a source of entertainment and gossip, as well as a means of quickly alerting neighborhoods of emergencies such as fires. The rapid growth of telephone service demand, especially after World War II, resulted in many party line installations in the middle of the 20th century in the United States. Some rural users had to run their own wires to reach the utilities lines. In fact, barbed wire telephone lines were created in rural America around the turn of the 20th century. In some isolated farming communities, it was not cost-effective for corporations to invest in the telephone infrastructure. Instead, the existing extent of barbed wire fences could be used to transmit electric signals and connect telephones to neighboring farms. The main purpose of such networks was to transmit weather conditions and forecasts, as well as train schedules. And yes, railroad system telephone service for dispatchers and service personnel between way stations along railways used a form of party line service for many decades, starting in the early 1900s. Even though party lines typically operate using mechanical switching systems not suitable for modern electronic or digital switchgear, they are still in use primarily in rural areas where local loops are long and spread sparsely over a large area. Privacy is limited, congestion often occurs, and in isolated communities, party lines have been used for local service only. In modern use, the term party line has occasionally been used to market conference calling and voice bulletin board services. Pretty cool. And as Jan's drunken maid Elma states of Brad's womanizing in our film, he's brightened up many dreary afternoons for me. And the answer to our trivia question this week: what unique automobile proved to be a tight fit for someone in our film? And yes, a tight fit it was for Brad Allen, a 1955 MG TF 1500 Roadster. The TF 1500 midget launched in October of 1953. An open two-seater roadster producing 63 horsepower was the last of the T-Type series, ending production in 1955, to be superseded by the MGA. And yes, not the car for someone 6 foot 4 inches tall. They ended up having to take a cab. Pretty cool. I'd like to give out a big thank you to my new subscribers this week, and everyone else for tuning in this week. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I hope to see you back next week. Oh, they're still at it.
Oh, I'd love to have dinner with you.
Hello. Is anybody on this line?
Yes, I am on the line. Would you please get off it?
All right, but you're on my half hour.
Ooh. Rex? Rex, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Who was that?
Oh, my party line. A horrible little man.
He sure isn't very well-mannered.
Mannered? He isn't even worth talking about. Now. What were you saying?